How's it going? This man Mar here. Sounds good. Give me a one in the actual chat. You can be able to hear me. I don't even see myself live on my own channel when I go to my channel. Hold on a second. Let's see what's going on here because I can't even see myself live on my own channel. All right, there we go. There we go. We seem to be live now. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over this video by Michael Steele. If you don't know who Michael Steele is, he used to be the head of the Republican National Committee under Barack Obama before they threw him out. So this is the army that him and Steve Schmidt built for years. Another shock and surprise that there was another grifter in Donald Trump that has actually came through, took all the idiots that they actually created, turned those people into an army that actually threw them out of the party. So what you're going to hear is you're going to hear nothing but liberal critiques of Republicans over the last 50 years coming out of the mouths of two people who's been building up this army that they are now complaining about. Make sure you hit the like button upon coming in, so that way we can play this in front of you. The reason why most of these so-called conservatives in the space, they don't do any actual analysis of what actual Republicans say because they just don't want to. They want the ability to claim something, be a part of something, but don't want to invest in anything. Because their whole idea is to get something for nothing. As much as they complain about welfare and how many things they want to women, they just want to be invested in on the same level that other people are investing in. But they're not going to participate in the process at all in order to get these things. So we're going to have Mike V and the Going 11 and Renaissance Man if they have time to come up. But we're going to play this because these liberal critiques of conservatives for the past 50 years, and these are not their critiques, by the way. These people are only considered, matter is only considered grifters simply because they got thrown out of the party, not because of what they were actually doing. This is the actual live stream. Who's on America's Side with Steve Schmidt. It was produced 7 days ago. The actual link is in the actual description box, so that way you can go review this actual live stream without my commentary. So without further ado, we're going to be able to get this stuff started. Fair use, fair use. Set that there. And I'm going to stop it at certain points here, so that way we could be able to respond to some of the things that are being said.
George Santos, Israel, and Gaza, Kevin McCarthy, X, whatever the hell that is now, affirmative action, inflation, indictments, GOP debates. Hey everybody, it's Michael Steele. 2023 threw an incredible amount at us this past year. Some of it crap, a lot of it confusing, concerning. But you know what? We weathered the storm, and we're still weathering. And I have just the guest to help us unpack 2023 and get ready for the storms that lie ahead in 2024. as we start this new year. Steve Schmidt is a political commentator and strategic advisor who has counseled heads of state, CEOs, major corporations, academic institutions, and not-for-profit organizations. He is also the host of the podcast and Substack newsletter, The Warning with Steve Schmidt. We get into it. This was a little different, a little highbrow philosophical discussion, which I think you need to kind of orient that thinking, at least help you orient that thinking as we get ready for 2024. Sit back, relax, get ready. We're about to rock and roll with Steve Schmidt right here on the Michael Steele Podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Steele Podcast. This is the first of the new year where we get to sit down and hang out. And I thought no better space and time and person to have to do this with than my man, Steve Schmidt. You know him. You follow him. He is a disruptor of the best view. Stress test the systems, as it were. Steve, welcome, man. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Looking good, baby. Looking good.
Thanks. Good to you too.
Yeah, you know, us follically challenged fellows, we're still looking good, baby, as we do our thing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, look, man, it's a real treat to get you in the conversation again. I mentioned the disruptive part of what you bring to politics, and we'll get into some of that. But let's start with the disruption that we see externally from others, and how that's setting up 2024. So when you look at 23 and all the stuff that came down the pipe.
Okay, before we let this go on, these are two establishment conservatives who built this actual movement to the place it is now. Steve Schmidt was the head of John McCain and Sarah Palin's presidential campaign that ran against Barack Obama. It was Steve Schmidt's idea to actually bring on Sarah Palin onto the big stage to be John McCain's running mate. What's going on, Mike V?
Yo, what's going on, man?
Yeah, you're going to hear all of our critiques come out of these people's mouths, so now it becomes relevant. But for some reason, they just won't listen to the left. They won't have left-wing people on, but they will have right-wing people on to talk about left-wing things. I never really understood that. Because when you challenge these dudes head-to-head and you're allowed to go at them the way that you can go at them, they can't win. They can't win anything. And it's no different anywhere else. So without further ado, let's just keep this going.
Like from the Trump trials and the speaker races that seem to go on ad nauseum, what are some of the disruptions you saw in 23 that are really going to be shaping the disruption in 24?
I think the biggest thing is that it depends how you view this. When I look around and I try to answer a question about what is it that I see, what I see is a continuous unfolding event that's gone on for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Since Donald Trump came down the escalator at Trump Tower, incontestably, he has been the dominant cultural figure in the United States over this period of time. There has been profound societal damage as a result of that we could talk about for days. There's a legitimately theocratic Speaker of the House
Yep.
who believes that people and dinosaurs walked around together 6,000 years ago. He is a full-on religious zealot, fanatic, exactly the type of person the founders disdained with regard to their worries of who would it be that would hold high office in the country.
Right.
If you believe one of the great inventions in history is the separation of church and state, which I do, you have a legitimate theocrat in that office. The extremist movement is better organized. It has higher morale. It's better funded. It's on the march. It has a plan to fundamentally deconstruct the government of the United States within 6 months, hollowing out professional civil service. So we're at a moment around the world. We see hot war, Ukraine and Russia,
Right.
with a really growing difficult situation for Ukraine. The United States choking off supplies because of Republican Congress. You have military flare-ups in Azerbaijan and Armenia. There's tension on the border in Europe between Serbia and Kosovo. Russia is menacing the Baltics. What's happening in the Red Sea is significant. We have a tremendous amount of military firepower across the region in a situation that could escalate in an instant. So the world is at a dangerous hour. The country remains in a political crisis that's worsening, and what it appears to be, fundamentally, the main candidates for the presidency, but not the only significant candidates, stand to be Biden and Trump.
Right.
And so with that, you have a race that to some degree has some of the dimensions of the 1948 campaign, where Harry Truman had to figure out how to win, when there were three factions of the Democratic Party in the race. There was
Right.
a leftist faction represented by Wallace, a segregationist faction represented by Thurmond, Harry Truman in the mainstream of the party, and there was one Republican, and Harry Truman figured out how to do it.
Right.
And that's the question at hand, because losing is not an option to MAGA and Donald Trump here.
Well, no, I agree with that, and I want to get to your disruption in that space in a moment, because I think it's important for people to put it in context. You ticked off a couple of things that are, I think, significant in terms of the effectiveness of that disruption. What I find the most intriguing still, Steve, is the fact that so many people are buying the negative narrative. The economy sucks when inflation is down, prices are coming down, jobs are increasing. Numbers out this week, literally today, 216,000 jobs created last month at the end of the fourth quarter of 23, and yet and still people buy.
All right, let's stop right here. Did they just say the economy was good? Mike, did they just say the economy was strong?
I would say so.
Did they just say the economy was strong?
It seems like that's what I heard. Contrary to some of the belief of these other people running around saying, the economy is terrible, things are so bad. When we look at the fundamentals, things are looking a little bit different, but that's what I heard, MOT. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall somebody's talking about gasoline prices now that they're like $2.20. across the South, by the way. And diesel is probably like 350 at other places other than Pilot, Flying J, Love's, and other big corporate places. Yeah, nobody's really complaining about gasoline prices anymore. The food prices haven't went down because that's
Oh
another
man.
system. That's another system. But let's keep this going. I just wanted to make sure that people got on record that the economy is good according to Republicans. These are not Democrats; they're Republicans. Let's keep going.
Okay.
The polling are saying, give me MAGA, give me Trump, give me that religious zealot in the House. What do you make of that? What are people missing in the political class, especially, that makes them still approach this election as a conventional, traditional election between a Republican and Democratic candidate?
There's two parts to your question. There is, why do people follow Trump? What appeals to them about Trump?
Right.
And there's, how do they feel about the economy and all of this stuff? The reality is, if you read all of the stories, and I know you do, the White House seems genuinely perplexed and in need of something. And when you read between the lines, what they want is a thank you. They want appreciation, right? They want to have an argument, right, that says, wait, we did all these things, all these historic things, right? And no one is thanking us for it. We're not getting any credit for it, right? So we're going to tell people, right? We're going to say it louder. We're going to say it more. We're going to tell them what we did so they thank us for it. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do well in American politics. But let me just say, the country is not in a thank you state of mind.
Right.
They're in a fuck you state of mind.
Yes, they are.
Right. So full stop right there. The second thing is this, and this is true, and this is not said disrespectfully. This is not said with anger, but the election is less than a year away, and this is important. Somebody needs to walk into the Oval Office and say to the president and some of his top advisors, no one will throw you a ticker tape parade for doing the things that you said you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
The thank you is the airplane, the helicopter, the White House, and all the cool shit that the American people give you when you swear the 35-word oath.
That's right.
That's it. Right? That's what you're getting. So the question is, why are you running for president for 4 more years at the age of 82? Why? Now, full stop there. We can talk about what he needs to say about that. On the economy, you have 80 years of research. This is really the only thing the American people care about, is the relationship between wages and prices. We live in a period of time that I think is fair to call the angry 20s.
Right.
100 years ago, coming out of a pandemic, we had the angry 20s in Germany and in Europe. The French called it the crazy years. It was the roaring 20s in the United States. But we had this profoundly disruptive event that profoundly changed how people live, how they work, how they travel, what they do, where they go, how they function. Huge feelings of isolation, all sorts of change. People notice the prices, and the reality is in the country, 40% don't have $400 available.
Right.
So let's talk about democracy, but let's do it in the way that Franklin Roosevelt talked about it in 1936 when he talked about we had a revolution to overthrow a king. But now there are new kings, new monarchs, new royalists. So let me ask you a couple of questions. The black woman from Ohio who's being prosecuted because she had a miscarriage,
Right.
and she put the remains of the 21-week fetus that died in utero into the toilet, who's being prosecuted for desecration of a corpse. What does democracy mean to her? She doesn't live in a democracy, right? If you're unbanked, right? If you're forced to exist with the payday lender and are charged usury rates by your credit card, do you live in a democracy? Right? You live in a monarchy, a tyranny of the big bank. If you're a farmer in Solano County, California, near Vallejo, and you have worked that land through generations, your family, you have 8 Silicon Valley billionaires decide they're going to build a utopia there. They buy up all the land, treating you like insects. Do you live in a democracy? What about if you're part of the cohort related in some way to the million dead of opioids? How's democracy working out for you? So the restoration of the American dream is essential. Now, President Biden, and I think this is a good sign, right? Because the question he has to answer is, why is he doing this again?
Right.
And maybe an answer to that when he goes to Valley Forge, when he goes to AME, and I encourage him to campaign on the civil rights trail all across the country, everywhere, good and bad, to say, I'm old enough to remember something that hasn't been learned or has been forgotten by too many of us. And before...
Okay, let's stop right here. Does all of this sound like conservative critiques to anybody?
Not at all. No, that's about as left as you can get.
Agreed.
None of this
Agreed.
sound like right-wing critiques. And it's like, look, Michael Steele and actually Steve Schmidt were the one who built up this army that Donald Trump is now in charge of. This guy has been in politics for the last 30 years. Talking about he don't know what theocracies are. Like, dude, most of the candidates that you actually worked on their campaign for put up these right-wing judges who did exactly what happened in Ohio. This is unreal. That this is not even their critiques. These are liberal critiques coming out of their mouths, and they're only don't care about it because they're currently not being paid by the party. Mike. Okay, Mike must be doing something. But here's the thing. How can you tell people that they ought to go talk to more black churches? When was the last time a Republican talked about a liberal need to go talk to black churches? Like, who is the enemy of, and always have been historically, of that? Yes, the conservative movement that you used to work for. That was always the natural enemy of those people. I don't understand that. Go.
Hey, listen, this is the guy who's responsible for Sarah Palin and all of that.
Yeah.
We can't don't forget that. But anyway, yeah, you're absolutely correct about that. MOT, I don't really have much really to add on that. I think you nailed that right in the head.
This is crazy. And it's like, these people are on TV. Liberals are not on TV. They're using liberal critiques. What's going on, Jay Shine? They're using liberal critiques as their own content when it's never been their point. It only became their point now because they won't let liberals be on TV at all. Period. But it's just crazy that all this stuff is coming out of their mouths when they've been working for the very people that cause all these problems.
I pass the torch. We have to renew our faith.
Yeah, the idea is to
powerful invite in a powerful idea, right? And connect it. Now, the proposition with Trump's a philosopher of fuck youism.
Yeah, of course.
So when you lower expectations to zero, break faith completely, people disdain the government. You've had a 50-year campaign saying it's the enemy. right? People believe nothing is on the level, and a lot of it isn't, right? What does Trump deliver? Well, the people they hold responsible for the destruction of the American dream, the destruction of their lives, the teaching of their kids that men can be women 1 minute, women the next, all of the things, right, that they are aghast at, right, upset at, feel condescended by. What Donald Trump delivers to them is in perpetuity the agony of the people they hate. But if you live on fuck you energy, which a political party has for 7 years, this is an empty calorie. It's like drinking 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day. It'll make you fat, soft, lazy, stupid, and kill you with diabetes.
Yeah.
And that is the cost of the society, right? The decay, the corruption, right? That is permissible because an angry country that has been hollowed out at a time of economic inequality that is staggering historically, where faith has been breached between the people and all sorts of groups, companies, institutions at the top, it makes it possible for a demagogue of Trump's talent to rise.
Yeah, and that's been in the making for 60 years, and it's an ongoing narrative in the U.S. that goes back to Reconstruction and before, where you have these elements within the society, these tensions within the society that are consistently at odds with each other. The difference has been, you speak of Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, Daddy Bush 41. Generationally speaking, you've had leaders who've risen to speak to the better angels in those difficult times, to the litany of individuals that you've identified who that are questioning democracy. You've had leaders to affirm for them the underlying principle of this great experiment, noting we're not a democracy per se, we are a republic, we are an amalgam of states that agree to actually operate under one banner. That's the test. That's also the challenge and the opportunity that makes this thing work. When the leaders, and this is where the Donald Trumps come in with their fuck you attitude, when the leaders stop affirming those underlying principles, which you have so eloquently spoken about in the past and continue to do, that's when that individual, those individuals you mentioned, begin to feel the burn of their situation. The hopelessness begins to set in, because what becomes the reality is, oh, all this shit's been a lie. That there is no one who cares that my son died of opioids. There is no one who's concerned that my daughter won't be able to go to college because she can't afford it. There is no concern that as I retire, I have nothing to retire on. There is no concern that my parents, and I've just gone through this and still go through it with my dad, but went through this with my mom. There is no concern with how we treat the elderly in this country and how much more difficult it is to age in this country and how much easier it is to die alone. Thankfully, that was not the case for my mom, but that is the story for so many. Because of that failed leadership, it opens up that door for Donald Trump to bring his brand of bullshit to the table, which offers nothing other than the salve to say, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, aren't they bitches? They don't give a shit about you, but he ain't giving them anything. So what happens on the other side of that? Because at some point, even the MAGA people have to recognize Donald Trump's ass may go to jail. Or if you go to jail, just ask those who were January 6th who've been prosecuted, the 1,200 who've been being prosecuted and some of whom are on their way to jail. He ain't sending them a check to get them out. His only promise is, oh, reelect me and I'll pardon you. Well, that ain't paying the legal fees that I had to pay. That ain't paying back the reputation that I lost from following you. So what is it people expect at this point? And that dovetail into your effort to push Dean Phillips into a position to challenge in the upcoming election, and what that.
All right, let's stop right here. Was that MOT or was that Michael Steele? This has been what we've been saying forever. It's like, what is going on here? It's like these are total liberal critiques of the party that you built. You built this. Now you complaining about it because they changed the locks on the grifter doors? Come on, man. Mike.
I don't agree with that though, MOT. I think that what they were trying to build is complete opposite of what they have now.
Oh
and
yeah,
here's why.
complete opposite.
And here's why. Because they were trying to he being Michael Steele was trying to diversify the party. That was his whole role, being the head of the RNC, was to restructure it, bring it back to and take it into the next generation of demographics that are coming now. Somebody has a lot of feedback on it, Mike. And so the idea that they, that part of this is their fault. I don't think so. I don't think that Michael still had the intention to bring on a Donald Trump. He's more of a traditional in fact, he's more of a conservative long party wise than Donald Trump is, and he's younger than Trump, right? He's been a party conservative or a party member since what, 1977, 1976?
No. 76.
Yeah,
76.
Yes, but Mike, what I'm saying is that once they kicked him out of the party, it was very clear where that party was going. Once Rush Limbaugh ran him out of the party, it was very clear the way the party was going to go after that. They thought they could control those dudes, and they couldn't. They were prepped and primed to do exactly what they're doing now, become the exact threat that they was 150 years ago.
Okay, now, MOT, I would agree with you, but I would agree with Mike as well, because as Michael Steele was really brought in as a counterbalance to Obama. Obama came in, they were, the party at that point in time was starting to think how they were going to expand its base, broaden it, and bring more minorities and so forth in, as they would call it, minorities or whatever. But that's what they were kind of looking to do, and Michael Steele was front man on that purpose. They later decided not to go that route and basically sacked Michael Steele in favor of Reince Priebus, and then they moved forward with their let's use the mechanisms of the let's use the mechanisms of the system to really hold back, cut certain people out, and then of course try to jimmy and rig the system to win elections where we don't have to need these broader based folks to broaden out the party. Now we have to look at people like like my man here, Mr. Schmidt, and say he was kind of part and parcel of that. He was involved with that a lot more, certainly during the campaign with respect to McCain, and then once again bringing Sarah Palin in, this far kind of right winger way out there from Alaska, and her rhetoric and the stuff that she was running, that ushered in a lot of what else we see in the party today. She was pretty far right, and more far rights came in there, behind her, and so they kind of ginned this up. He has been more responsible for actually creating this this beast that that this party has become than I would say Michael Steele. Michael Steele's view or the reason why they brought him in was to actually broaden the base of the party and bring more blacks and minorities in, of which I totally supported. I have to admit that I supported that all the way. I thought Michael Steele was a very good guy, and I thought that's exactly the way the Republican Party should have moved. and I was in total support of that, and I thought the party was smart to begin to move in that direction, but they decided to take a different direction later on, and we can all debate why that was done, but we know what happened thereafter. So after the Obama election, moving into his re-election, Steele was out, and we see what we see now.
Yeah, it's like Cicely, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, y'all. What's going on? What's going on, MLK?
Oh, you got something to add to this, or we'll just move on?
No, y'all cooking. I'm not too versed in Michael Steele and Mike Schmidt, so I'm just let y'all cook on that.
All right, it's like
Cause you said the grift. I thought you were talking about something else, but I'm
no,
listening. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, but this is the grift though that we're talking about.
Yeah,
They
for
built
sure.
this monster and then they got kicked out. It's like when Michael Steele was the one who brought in the actual Tea Party. But not only was he trying to bring in the Tea Party, but he wanted to broaden the base altogether. But the Tea Party was part and parcel of that. These so-called independents who didn't want to be part of with their actual Bush Cheney '04 stickers on the back of their truck. These were these so-called new independents, and that's when all these people became quote unquote Tea Partiers. And he tried to bring these people in and bring in a whole coalition of people, and it just didn't work. And they ended up throwing them out. They had a very ineffectual leader in Rice Priebus. They seen a bunch of people who wasn't policy related or based, and then that's how they ended up where it was. I mean, like the election of Barack Obama actually set the actual seeds for a person like Donald Trump. To be honest with you.
That's exactly what happened. The more radical side of the party really started to gin up. That's we saw the hardcore racists really coming out, and they were just waiting for somebody like a Donald Trump, who was a Democrat up until 2007 or
Yeah.
so, a Democrat, and then he switched his party because he saw exactly what was going on, and then he came on in and ushered in that deeper far right piece that was there. He didn't create that. He just watered it and helped it to even go more. But that was there, solid in there, and
Yeah, Trump.
they were in there. So and Trump was not, and they knew Trump was not a conservative. They knew it. They understood that this guy was, in fact, a Democratic, in many respects, liberal, but very much he was, he had that racist edge, and those guys were really in on that, and Trump was really ready to play to that, and he did, and he did that successfully, and was able to, do what he did, and here we are. But that was something that was already in the party. Trump came in and took, further advantage of that. But that's what that was already there. That deep far right, what you see there right now, has been in that party that was ushered in heavily, especially during the I would have to say McCain campaign, and primarily through Sarah Palin. She played a big part of that, along with the Tea Partiers and all those beginning to congeal. But that's what we saw. That's what we saw. And then after the
Question
loss,
Chris.
excuse me.
Yo,
Go ahead.
Let me get a
Right?
question
Yeah. No,
Chris in here.
go ahead. Go ahead, you guys. You got it.
Question Chris.
hey, how y'all doing, gentlemen?
Oh, we're doing all right, man.
I left a comment. And the thing about it, they still gonna vote for Trump regardless of all this
I know.
yippity yap they talking. They babbling. That's all they doing. Just it's a pity party or what they we they know they created this monster. All from Nixon starting with the Southern strategy. These same people that was a part of that. They sit now. They can just look on social media and see what you typing up, see how you feeling, and they get their little think tanks. And every election cycle, they get their little think tanks. Oh, what's the fit? We ain't never gonna talk about policy. We just gonna talk about everything emotional and your feelings to put. It's the same thing, same play they've been doing for years.
Yeah, that's a
Question.
pretty cogent. That's a pretty cogent analysis. That's pretty cogent. The Southern strategy, was definitely ushered. It was ushered in quite a while before that, but it really did come in, pretty heavily and strong amongst I would have to say, really, when we really sort of had Bush one, certainly Bush one, and you had your Lee Atwaters and all them in there rolling heavy with that, heavy, and that really ushered in. So this was a cascade of events that was going to lead to this anyway. It was coming to that. So I would have to totally agree with that. But one of the wrinkles that they didn't see Obama coming, and when he came, they tried to counter some of that with Michael Steele to a certain degree. Michael Steele was kind of the counterbalance to that, but they got rid of that, and this is what you see.
All right, let's keep going here. But these are liberal critiques to the things that they were and ended up being responsible for. I wouldn't say created, but ended up being responsible for overall. Let's keep going.
For sure.
Possibly mean not for the election of Dean Phillips, but the election of Donald Trump.
Well, let me break this up into two parts, right? So where you started, right? What Joe Biden is trying to say and has to say more clearly is very simple, right? Michael Franti has a great song, should be a campaign song, right? Call Michael Franti and ask him for the rights to
the song. Right.
I'm on your side.
Right.
That's the message of Joe Biden's campaign. I'm on your side, right? And if you listen to the lyrics, if you get a call that tells you got to pray, right? If you're afraid, right, worried about paying the bills, I'm on your side.
Right.
Right? Donald Trump and the MAGA movement are not on America's side. They're on no person's side. It is a corrupt cabal, an organized conspiracy for the purposes of taking power and enriching and engorging themselves at the public trough, establishing one set of rules for them and another for everybody else, where they can subjugate so they can enrich themselves.
Right.
It is appalling. Donald Trump doesn't leave his people unfulfilled. Delivering the fuck you is a powerful narcotic. And we can talk more about it. What I would say about Dean Phillips is that he appeared on my podcast. I admire Dean Phillips. And there's something important to say. And you're on television. I've been on television for a long time. What is the word we should call it? When every person goes on TV, says one thing on camera, and another thing off
camera. Right.
Right? And is acknowledged as fact by every reporter in the country. What Dean Phillips said is the president's political position demands a primary challenge because the president is losing the election to Donald Trump. And I want to say something to the Biden people, because I think I represent a vast cohort of people that fall into the category that I'm about to articulate. Dean Phillips got into the race. You can look at the announcement speech. He was very quickly at 25% in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
The race was, hey, do 120 town halls up here, see what happens if you go out. From my observation, I helped launch it, not run it, and helped start up a first wave of Super PAC, frankly, because I could do it faster than the permanent one that had set it up. Is that the message has changed from, hey, this is a race about Trump, to like the Dean Phillips campaign is really a campaign about ballot access in the Democratic primary. That's what it's become. And so, because I've been someone who's been around the block on political campaigns, I just don't feel the need to pretend, right? There's no plausible scenario 3 weeks out for Dean Phillips to go from where he is today to winning the New Hampshire primary, right? So the day after the New Hampshire primary ends, right? I think what Dean Phillips did was honorable and admirable. And if it kicked off as a consequence of political and campaign meeting in the Biden White House 20 minutes early, that's a very good thing, right? And so, but the day after the New Hampshire primary, in my view, it's time for Dean Phillips, right, to get on board and to support the person who's going to be the Democratic nominee. And I want to talk honestly about this. I'm very unhappy about it. I'm very unhappy about it, right? About the choice, right, that I'm facing. And so there's a lot of commentary that you read when you say anything, very brittle reaction. Right, with reporters like, how dare you criticize, right, something about the Biden. Let me respond to it. No, fuck you, right? No, you need me, right, more than I need you, right? You're going to appreciate my unhappiness, right, as I get on board enthusiastically. But let me just say in advance, right? Joe Biden loses this election. His legacy's 2 words. It's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He'll be the second president in a row who won't have a presidential library.
Yeah.
Right? There will be no accomplishments, right? And the legacy of every person around him who put ego first will have a high price to pay. And let me add to that. If you're a poker player, right, ace is the high card, right? So a lot of the message on the Biden campaign has been, this is an existential threat for democracy, right? That's the high card. That's not the high card. It's not bullshit each other.
Yeah.
That's the king. The high card is no one dare hurt the president's feelings by saying that he may be a weak candidate at 82 against Donald Trump because he's been overwhelmed, not by governance, but by politics, by communications, in a tidal wave of filth. So what this moment requires is a coalition that appreciates the flawed standard bearer is democracy's standard bearer, and the threat is so exceptional that our unhappiness will have to yield. But understand, the Democratic Party, if it fails to stop a Donald Trump return to the White House, will be as utterly wrecked as the Republican Party. Because what party could conceivably be so awful, so weak, and so unappealing that it could lose an election to the most rancid cause since Jim Crow and the Confederacy?
Yeah, I think you nailed that precisely right. It is one of the frustrations I have, and people who listen to my podcast know I've expressed time and time again, as well as on MSNBC. I don't know what the hell is wrong with Democrats. I don't know how Republicans have ever lost to them, to tell you the truth, because the reality of it is I've never seen a more politically inept group of people so tone deaf to where the country is telling them they want to go and what they need, and getting lost in the MAGA bullshit out of the House and out of Trump, around Joe Biden's age, around Kamala Harris, around a whole bunch of stuff, as I like to say, is a broad example of where the Democrats have been from day one. They spent the first 2 years talking about filibuster, and the American people were asking them, who the hell is Phil and Buster, and what did they do that everybody's so mad at them? And that, to me, was always been sort of the quintessential disconnect. It is around the communication. They have been out communicated by a very, very sophisticated and organized group of people who are not promoting democracy and democratic principles, but to your earlier point, fuck you mentality. It is the ultimate form of me first, because whenever you say that politically, that's essentially what you're saying to people, and so you don't have a counter narrative to that. You wind up in a race against a guy like Trump, losing by 4 points right now. Now, we are 7-8 months before this shit really matters. So when we get to September, it really matters at that point because voters start to settle and tell you, as you know, what their choice will likely be. How is their recovery for the president on this? Today, he's at Valley Forge. He is giving, to your point, making the case to the American people. And he's starting with the idea about democracy and noting at the same time, in the same breath as I've watched him do on the screen, that Donald Trump has told you he wants to be a dictator on day one. Do those things align, right? How does he begin to address that narrative shortfall that he has with the American people?
So today is a good day. All right. He is out of the White House, out of Washington, in the country, at a place that deeply matters to the American civilization.
Mm-hmm.
This is an important place. Right. We share this space that he's at today.
Yep.
Now, the AP wrote that he was going there. And the way they did it, right, they said he's going to a place of national trauma. This is
the press is you just can't.
This is a place where through hardship and fortitude and defiance, farmers become the American army.
I wonder what the hell they call Gettysburg.
And when the army under the command of George Washington rolls out of Valley.
Hold on a second. Now hold on a second. All of these farmers said that they want to vote for Trump. Like, what is going on here? It's like you guys are the problem. You have to address your party. Your party that you're a part of is the problem. Why is it everybody else's job to address the people in your party? Your party is the problem. It ain't everybody else. The fact that you have corporate media it's a better play to go towards more dumbass people than actually report the news. That's why you have to get rid of, the Communication Act of 1996. You got to bring back true competition. You got to make news a nonprofit organization. You got to get rid of corporate, multi-syndicated news across the United States to actually debate factual things. Because if you can't do that, you're going to have exactly what you have. I mean, like, how do you explain the black conservative perspective or Louder with Crowder? These people are not political people. At the end of the day, they debate nobody. The only thing they do is root around in obvious clown shit. They get huge audience out of it. They don't even have to debate anything. They don't have to debate anyone. They don't have to provide any answers to anything. This shit is crazy. Go ahead, Quizzer. Go ahead, Quizzer.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Don't get me started on the so-called black conservative. I mean,
what I'm addressing is they know that their party is the problem. They want the Democrats to overcompensate for the army that they created and eventually are responsible for. They're making liberal diagnoses of the army that they're creating and they're responsible for. We can't go into these rural communities like with these farmers that he's claiming is going to be this new army. No, the actual farmers are quite okay with immigrants coming to work for them. They just don't want them to stay as citizens once they're done with them. It's like these are the same people that are causing the problem here.
And these are the main campaign contributors that donate to the Republican Party to stop for these so-called immigration issues, to stop immigration. And how can I say it easily? They, like you just said, they want them just over here for cheap labor. We don't want you doing having no other kind of rights, no other kind of benefit of coming across the border. But yet, on the other hand, them same people in the same town in these rural, they against that. But both of them, two birds of the same feather. I mean, it's just, I scratch my head on the logic and reason that they use on that issue. I mean,
Yeah, let me keep going with this because these are liberal critiques, by the way. They're not pointing toward conservative. Mike, go ahead.
they
Mike, what you something to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that they could easily. Yeah, I think there's a delay here or something. Yeah, I think I think that it's interesting that they don't seem to want to bring in, poor European, from Eastern Europe, from Bulgaria and Czech Republic and these places, to come work their farms. They only seem to want, the non-English speaking people to come do it, and then kick
Exclusive.
them out.
And it's like, is that any better than what? It's like, no, it's still usury. It doesn't matter whether it's corporate usury or farm-based usury. It's still usury. At the end of the day, they have their own farm-based banks that give them loans to make money each year. That front them the money to make money each year. Everybody can't say that they have an actual banking system that actually protects their right to make money every single year and use immigrant labor to do so. Every industry doesn't have that.
and they're subsidized.
Yes, subsidized, but they don't want to provide people any type of working wage or health care or anything. And once they're done with them, they want to drop them. But let's just keep going with this nonsense about the farmers are going to be the actual work. I'm like, the farmers are eating at the trough like everybody else.
Valley Forge in 1778. It's a different army
Yeah.
that came into Valley Forge. And in the revolution, not so long after it is won. And when that revolution is won, you have a young Frenchman who's in command of American troops in Yorktown, and the Marquis de Lafayette, when he sees the white flag go up, he says, humanity has its victory, liberty has its country, and he believed that this was the greatest event in human history. The idea that regular people would run the government as sovereigns, the creation of a republic that in time is going to enfranchise all of us.
We the people.
This gives a rationale for Biden to shine a light on his weakness, right, which is his age, and to say, let me tell you something before I pass, before I hand it off, before my generation yields. Frank Roosevelt talking to the Canadian Prime Minister related to the night, the world we live in, that he envisioned, that he architected, he created. He said that he hoped that it would endure and is last for as long as everybody who is alive on the day that war was won was still alive. And the youngest of those people are 78. I was 3 years old. And that world order is unraveling because of Vladimir Putin, because of Xi Jinping, because of Donald Trump, because of a rise of this. And I want to connect the past to the present and open a door to the future where we bring the American dream back. And we're going to do three great things over the next 4 years, on top of the three things that we have done over the last 4 years, that 50 years from now, your grandchildren will thank you for saving this country.
That's it. That's
right.
Dude.
This is
I'm clipping this and sending it to them.
He must step into the arena. This must be confronted on each and every hour. Love beats malice. And what beats Trumpism is an articulation of better. And what is better is the American ideal. We share an identity in this country, right? We share an identity. It's an American identity. There's no identity that's unique higher than that. And I'll tell you a story I heard about the Dean Phillips campaign. And this is what scares me to death about this election in the Democratic Party. So, politics are rough business, right? You go through Congress, and Dean Phillips is a very talented guy. He's a very, very talented political candidate. I jumped in the race as a matter of conviction. People were terrified. I stepped off the line with them because I don't think people should ever be afraid of running for office, let alone president of the United States. people shouldn't be afraid to work on a campaign. And I'll just be honest, right? The intimidation inspires my defiance, right?
Yeah.
And so off we step into the line, and a campaign comes together. And D. Phillips winds up in a car with Mark Leibovich, and he writes a profile on him. And in that profile, he makes a comment about Kamala Harris's unpopularity.
Yep.
And she is historically unpopular. She's at Dan Quayle levels of unpopularity. And to me, that is evidence of a pretty spectacular political malpractice, malfeasance.
Yeah, I agree.
But at any rate, the way the political ball bounces, right? This somehow now is that he is being called on to apologize, right, to Kamala Harris, right, for saying that she's unpopular. Right now, this is where a campaign, right? Now we're in the room. Like you and I have been in this room, right?
Oh yeah.
This is like a fun. It's like now this makes me happy if I'm in a political campaign, right? Because now you get to say that the correct answer is be like, we're not going to apologize to the vice president, but we definitely think the West Wing advisors who have wrecked her stature, her reputation, and her standing should apologize to her.
Yeah.
So-and-so should apologize for misusing her.
Yeah.
So-and-so should apologize for misusing one of the most talented candidates, right? So that's the right answer in a presidential campaign. So there's a meeting that I'm told after I'd stepped out and done these first 4 ads in the super PAC that took place in the campaign. And there's a guy sitting at the table who's a 60-plus-year-old white guy who has an IQ. It's way up there.
Yeah.
And he's done 700 political campaigns.
Yeah.
And this gentleman goes, we shouldn't apologize to Kamala Harris. It's the wrong thing to do. And a woman in the room, deputy campaign manager, like a real senior person, I don't know, right, says with great indignation, well, white cisgendered men don't get a vote in this room on that one. Right. And as soon as I heard that, right, you just know this is over, right? There's no
exactly
right. So this campaign is over, right? This is like if there's like a pancreatic cancer spore, right? That was airborne, right? Like outside your house, right?
Yeah, you just open the windows.
Right? Like, it's in, right? So the spore is in the house, right? It's over, right? You can't have a conversation, right? You have, right, half the campaign then is an oppressor oppressing the other half of the group. And so off the rails it goes, right? So when you read about, right, the Democratic National Committees having sit-ins against the Biden administration, right, that you have letter writing campaigns by staff who don't understand that the elected official makes policy, all of that stuff, right, keeps me awake at least one night a week, right? I'm not panicked about it, but I don't like it, right? The campaign. So what I want to see, like in this month, right? I want to see President Biden kick this guy's ass, right? I want to see him go to Mother Emanuel Church.
Yep.
I want to see him roll out across the country. And here's another thing I want to see. I don't want to see an hour-long State of the Union. I want to see one of the shortest State of the Union.
Bingo.
In
Absolutely.
American history. I want to see something that lasts for 15 minutes.
15 tops.
And here, listen to me, White House people. Listen to me.
Yes.
Get out John Kennedy speeches. The Arabella speech in 1960, before he left and was inaugurated. The tribute to Robert Frost, the speech at Rice University to the moon, his inaugural address. These are 15-minute long speeches. Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural. You, Mr. President, you must drive a theme.
Yes.
You must talk about the country. You must talk about our commonalities, where we're going. Read FDR's 1936 Democratic National Convention address.
Hold on a second. If you're Republicans, how come we can't refer to any Republican shit right now? What is up with we got to go through all this Democratic shit to actually get your people to act right? Like your party is the problem here. You're not addressing your party at all. Everybody else has to overcompensate and do all this shit because you will not address your people. And guess what happens after the Biden shit is over with? These people will go back to being Republicans right over again with a new era of like Liz Cheney being the actual conservative movement while they don't address their actual people. It's crazy. Man, let's keep this going, man. These are liberal critiques, by the way. He's leveraging nothing but Democratic candidates, Democratic speeches. You're a conservative. Where's your conservative shit that they should be returning to?
One thing I'm interested in, MOT, I think Schmidt changed his party to the Democrats, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he changed like an independent or some shit, but he'll be back being a conservative contributor as soon as they need somebody to be a campaign head chair for this moderate so-called three ways bullshit. As soon as Trump is off the planet, all these people are going to come back to being Republicans.
Yeah, he's definitely still a conservative. There's no doubt. But I think he was disgusted by what was happening with the Republican Party. But yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Now he's not being paid by him. He's disgusted by it right now. For now.
Yeah. That moderate Republican is gone with the wind now, never to return again. I'm sorry.
For now, until Trump is actually off the planet, they ain't gonna never have no type of. I mean, the best thing they could do is do what happened in Dallas. Have some guy who like, ooh, surprise, I'm an actual conservative, and people just let him get away with it. But let's keep this going.
And talk about democracy like that. Lay out a vision through conviction, not poll-tested banalities.
Look, if you can't at this point, given everything that we know and everything we've gone through and damn sure about to go through, you can't tell me in 15 minutes or less what your deal is and why your deal is important and why I need to follow you, then you're going to lose an incredible opportunity and get caught up in the politics of bullshit with Republicans sitting on their hands and booing and doing whatever their asshole tells them to do, and Democrats overplaying and jumping up and looking silly, applauding for shit that they shouldn't be applauding for. And then meanwhile, the country's going to yawn because nothing for them will have changed. And I think it's important what you're saying is that Joe Biden lets them know that, yeah, we're going to change the way we do this. We're going to move the country in a direction that is not expected. It is not pro forma. It is going to be rooted in blue-collar workers that I know and love. Families that are sitting at kitchen tables trying to figure out how to make...
On your side.
I'm on your side.
They are not on your side.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you whose else side I'm on. See those Ukrainian people? I'm on their side.
That's right.
Whose side Donald Trump on? He's on the side that has kidnapped 60,000 children.
That's it.
Right? I'm on your side. And at the end of the day, right? Like there's something you said earlier, right? And every time I see you, right, I always think, right? Every time we do one of these, right, I always think about like what Matt Schlapp said to you.
Yeah.
And how you bitch slapped him. When I was a kid growing up in New Jersey, Hank Aaron was a hero.
Yeah.
Later on, like when I'm 17 in the 1980s, right? You're kind of like people were shouting the N-word at Hank Aaron when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one thing that I was very, very sheltered about in life and as a Republican is on this question of race, and in particular the South.
Right.
Because I'm a Northerner. I'm from New Jersey. You are from Maryland.
Yeah.
Our Republican parties were not filled with religious fanatics. They weren't ideological. They weren't even conservative, right? They were the good government party.
Yeah. Pragmatic.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Your party has always had the Rick Santorums and Michelle Bachmans and all that crazy shit. Like, what is going on here? Like, this is what happens. It's just crazy.
The bathroom toe tapping, anti-gay.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm saying. Mark Foley or something Foley.
yeah,
Mike
toe
Foley,
tapping.
something
But
Foley.
we
Yeah,
against
You
against
talking
that
about
now.
you
But
talking about Daniel Craig. You talking about
oh
Senator
yeah,
Craig.
Daniel Craig. What's going on, Jay Shine, man? Thanks for coming to the panel, man. What do you have so far for this liberal critique of conservatism, dressed up as modern conservatism, anti-MAGA conservatism? I think it's crazy.
I just want to push back on you actually, MOT, a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because you're right. You know what I mean? I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is you're not realizing what these guys are realizing. What you're witnessing on this video is that they understand that the Republican voter is gone.
Yeah.
There is no talking to them. There's no negotiating with them. Those people are maniacs. They have nowhere else to go but to the independent and the Democratic voter. They have nowhere else to go. There's no conversation to be had over on the other side. They're not dealing with reality and not dealing with right or wrong. They're dealing with power. What's happening in the middle of the country right now, because I work in DOD. We have more information than most people. People who know right from wrong. They don't care, MOT.
Sure don't. I know.
I'm looking
I know.
at white males in their face who don't give a shit about justice, right or wrong. They don't care about honor and integrity. This is about power. You listen to
They
Fox
needed
News
you
for
to
1
actually
hour, it'll
believe that
drive you
shit.
crazy, huh?
They needed us to actually believe that they gave a fuck about it, so that way we wouldn't fight them tooth and nail like we should have been fighting them the entire time.
Right. So, and these guys have been pandering. These guys are part of the machine that pandered to this shit. You know what I mean? When Bush was in office.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They pandered to this, to the religious right, which is nothing but white nationals. To the gun people, the gun nuts, to the neocons. All of that whole mixture, this whole cabal they try to contain and they exploded in their face. And now it's eating the country whole. And we got a bunch of ignorant people. You know what's funny? Just before I came over here, I was watching a video somebody posted on IG of a Karen. This white boy trying to close the store during COVID. And this white woman who went out wear a mask. And he's like, I can't let you in, store policy. I'm just an employee here, ma'am. I'm just doing my job. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. And she just kept going on and on about some rights. Called the police, was on the phone with the dispatch. Talking about, can you tell him my rights? This is what we're dealing with, MOT. We saw it during COVID. The craziness. There is no one to talk to on that side.
No one.
And they know it. That's why, and that's why I'm saying I'm pushing back on you a little bit, because I feel your frustration.
Steve Schmidt said it himself, piggybacking on Jay Shine's point. You can't fix crazy. He realized that these people, I was going to get a little bit more into that as far as, his whole party move or moving away from these guys, the MAGA people and so forth. Because he looked at him and said, you can't fix crazy. You can't fix them. So, and that's Steve Schmidt himself, man right here. Said nope.
Responsible for this shit partially.
Hey, listen, he helped to usher some of that in. He did, and he knows. But he's seen how things have gone so far to the right in many respects. He understands that you can't, like Jay Shine is saying here, you just can't pull this thing back and reason with. You can't reason with the unreasonable. You cannot do it, and that's why they're trying to smother this baby in the crib, if you will, because they know this thing keeps getting out and getting more wild like it is. It's going to get a lot worse, especially with another presidency from how he perceives it of Trump getting in, that these crazies are just going to do stuff that's going to really be out of control. That's how he's seeing that. And, you can't reason with these people. Jay Shine is absolutely right about how he perceives it. They feel like you cannot reason with them.
And
Out of
here's the other
control
part
is
of it.
I was
Here's
going to
the
say
other
real
part of
quick
it.
before I came
Oh,
over
go ahead.
here.
Okay, Jason.
Before I came over to Germany in 2017, I got into 2 altercations with white males. At the same location too, at a Lowe's. One of it was just a verbal confrontation, and I had to realize in that moment I had to bring the temperature down. Like I knew this white boy know he can't whoop me. He know he can't whoop me. But why is he doing this? Because maybe he got that goddamn it on him. You understand me? He got that pistol on him. So I had to bring it down. This is what we're dealing with. The other white boy got into it. I actually had to hit him in front of my daughter. This has been bubbling for a long time. I stood in front of my daughter's principal at a middle school arguing about some false shit they put into a textbook, talking about they mistakenly gave Indians smallpox. I addressed that. This is not new. What you're seeing that's going on in Florida and Oklahoma and Texas. This is what's been bubbling up and bubbling up and bubbling up. And one of my frustrations with us as black men is that we're not on business as far as being what MLT calls the process. We have to get into this game. It's not going to go away on its own. And I don't know what we thought in a country, and I'm going to close on this point. This is a country that we grew up in, MOT, that we grew up in Nagone, that we grew up in Lou. We grew up in a country that used to gather and hang people. Thousands of them. And we forgot that. That's the mentality of the country you in. And it was never a convention or never a sit down with those same people to fix them. And somehow, because we got some ass, we got some more money, and the country got, a little more advanced, we got comfortable. These people have always been crazy.
And at the end of the day, it's a national, well-tended psychosis, actual burn fire that just turned into an actual nuclear explosion. And people are really wondering how this stuff. Like, dude, this is generational. Right now, I'm in Tennessee, Nashville. Whole completely immobilized by just 3 inches of snow.
I saw that. I saw that in the news.
Unbelievable.
No,
Unbelievable.
I saw him in Memphis
with no,
skiing down Beale Street.
Yeah.
and
Crazy.
their attitude is it'll go away when the good Lord intended for it to go away. We ain't gonna treat no roads. We ain't gonna do the least as possible.
And I drove from Memphis to Nashville. So I'm like, man, it's about to snow here. Man, I got Nashville. I got to the I-24, I-40 split before you got to 65, and things were at a standstill. Went out there early this morning. I seen the actual Department of Transportation of Tennessee plowing rich neighborhoods. Rich neighborhoods can get around. In Nashville, they didn't even plow the highway. Not 24, not 40, nothing. But they did the rich neighborhoods.
Can I say this real quick? Because I want to jump on what Jay Sean was saying. Because like me and MOT, we grew up in Mississippi. Jay Sean, you know what I mean? Like we didn't see the teeth of these conservatives. Like it's funny. I like what you said, MOT, about like where's these conservative speeches? Where are these conservative humanitarians? Where are these conservative people that can speak to the broad of America? I mean, if you ask me, Kevin McCarthy said it off rip. He said that when you look at the Democratic Party, that's America. When I look at the Republican Party, it just looked like a elitist country club. So, man, it's like this MAGA death cult. Jay Sean is right. You cannot reason with them. I told y'all, man, they had a suit that they found a family in Pennsylvania committed a suicide pact. Cause Trump, remember how them QAnon lies said
Oh
that
yeah,
Trump was gonna be president in 2021, 2022. He got the plan. Them folks killed themselves. The
I got
whole
two words
family.
for you, Lou. I got two words for you, Lou. Adam Kissinger. Half his family turned on him. If he can't get to his own family, his people, this
that's
is
what
a
I'm saying.
decorated soldier, congressman. If he can't talk to them, what makes you think we can?
Hell, you right.
I mean, this. I speak to family members, and I try to explain to them what everything y'all talking about is a political issue. Y'all just don't act on it. You sit back, la la la, sing a Sesame Street song like life just gonna go. And this time around, these people are gonna start putting what they typing online into action.
I'm telling you,
And folks think it's just, oh well, it's oh well, why are you doing this? Look, they've been telling you it's coming. You think it was a joke when Roger Stone wanted to kill them Democratic? No, he wasn't joking. Ha 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 ha. Well, I don't take me serious. It was AI. No, these people are serious, and I'm glad you brought this up, Jay Shine. And I that's another thing. Now they are correct in my opinion about the Democrats have no communication to the people. It's just like, oh, just
it's not a
please vote for
communication problem. It's not a communication problem because they can't be moved by factual information. It was never a communication problem. You mean to tell me that actual things of actual sources you can go for communication, but you're willing to believe in bullshit from an actual billionaire who ain't did nothing but ripped off and grifted people his entire fucking time? The dude has a whole fraud trial. Nobody has a whole fraud trial going on and multiple 91 felonies, and the dude doesn't even have to campaign, and he just won Iowa caucuses. This shit ain't about no messaging. This is a choice that these people made. It's just to say about look, there is no paragraph. Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson said this, and I believe him. He said that before he go to his most ardent supporters, people that he disagree with, he was like, "What level of information that I can present to you that would actually be able to change your mind?" And if they say none, we're done with the conversation. We're not going to talk about anything because I'm not going to sit here and bring up rational arguments and information and sources, and the only thing you do is do the Calvin and Hobbes thing. You look at all that information and pee on it. Like, no, 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 no. At the end of the day, you have to get your side out. That's what it is. You have to get your side out. Because the only thing they're leveraging is the Democratic Party. They're not leveraging anything in conservatism. They didn't talk about a conservative speech by anybody. They're going out to FDR and John F. Kennedy. And whose side are those people on? They're definitely on the
it's,
left. At the end of the day, they're not
it's,
talking about what people on the right have done. They didn't talk about speeches from like George H.W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or George W. Bush or even go back to Richard Nixon. They didn't even cite a speech from Dwight D. Eisenhower. They have to go back. They probably could have got away with it, but they're not even trying to leverage or talk to their own people. They want us to just to defeat them. Like, no, 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 no. End of the day, man, you gotta go talk to your folks. That ain't our
it's the
job, man.
same. It's the same as you said about how in our community they want the productive people to fix everything, and then we
Yes,
jump
they
right
do.
back in, and it's
Hey, I
tantamount as
mean, the
that.
same thing. Same thing happened with the manosphere. The productive people came in, and then all of a sudden, once they built their audiences, nobody's part of the manosphere no more. Now
Yeah,
everybody want to
yeah.
build their own
I can get
algorithm
me a good
based
check.
off of keeping
I can
men
make my
lost.
living. Yeah, I can make
Yeah,
my living now. I don't need the manosphere. I mean, okay, you done caused all these
it's,
problems. And the
yeah.
same as Michael Steele and this other Schmidt. I mean, amongst others. I mean, who would ever you couldn't have told me 20 years ago the Bushes wouldn't be a prominent. They have no say so, nothing to say in
Nothing.
the
No
in
Bush has said
nothing.
anything. Nothing.
Nothing. They can't say nothing. They
I
they
mean, the
Jeb
should
Bush.
they
Bush.
say
It was supposed to be Jeb Bush's turn to be president. That would have been the presidency if that guy hadn't
see,
showed
but
up. It was his
Michael
turn.
Steele they didn't stop. They didn't stop. They remembered these same people. Michael Steele them didn't stop Bush in Jeb Bush in 2000 in that Florida election. They let it go on. Now we got problems with election problems. Well, let's start with 2000. No, we just gonna start
Yeah, the right wing
2020
Supreme Court installed the presidency. They stopped the voter count in Florida. They stopped the voter count. They never believed in democracy. And all that stuff can be stemmed from that point of Chief Al Gore the actual presidency, which it was Clinton's fault because he didn't want to be seen around Gore. I can understand that actual move. But at the end of the day, it was an opening for those people. All right, Renaissance man, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, panel? What's up, MLT?
What's up, Renaissance?
What's up? Yeah,
What's going on, RM?
What's up, Nagone? What's up, Jay Sean? No, MOT. I was gonna say two things. One, this really goes back to when you, I think it was Jay Sean was saying Adam Kinzinger and his family turned on him. This goes back to really the repeal of the fairness doctrine and the rise of right-wing radio.
Yes.
These people have been indoctrinated. I mean, QAnon is the latest sort of, I guess, outgrowth of that, but these people have been indoctrinated for probably about 40 or 50 years now at this point of just nonstop talk radio, Rush Limbaugh, when he's off the air, even Tucker Carlson, all of that. You can even add Fox and its whole ecosystem, like, Fox, the most watched news channel. That's what a lot of this is these people have been able to live in an alternative reality for so long, and you're not going to just be able to come in there and have one conversation and undo it, and they will turn on you. The other thing too, you were talking about your neighbor, the snow trucks in neighborhoods in Tennessee. The one thing I will say about that, the reason why that's happening, I guarantee those neighborhoods vote. Unlike these other people who try to say that voting doesn't matter.
Thank you.
I guarantee those people vote, and they vote in every election.
And I guarantee they donate $1 a piece to their candidate.
Yes. The first thing I did as soon as I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I went straight over there to the Department of Transportation. And I just started following those trucks. The exit to the highway is right there. I'm like, where are they going? Yeah, they went all the way to the rich community and started plowing that shit. And they took their trucks right back to the actual thing and just shut down. I'm like, what? You didn't even go to the highway and it's right there. I'm like, oh my God, these people don't even know what these services are. And it's like, think about it, Citizen Lou, if we never would have left the South and we would have thought the whole world worked like this until you have like that wake-up call. When I went to Germany in 1996, and I'm like, yeah, great DOD schools. Where do the black people go to school at? Because I know they ain't going to go to school here. Everybody looked at me like shock and horror. Like, how would you say that in front of these diplomats? Diplomats start lying, laughing like a motherfucker. Because they know I'm like, he right. Why don't y'all have equal education in your country? And yeah, it was an uncomfortable ass conversation I got to talk to by the wing commander. But at the end of the day, the shit's true. Once you put people on a level to where they can have equal access to shit everyone else has, we do well.
I was gonna say, MOT, you see that they did an article on that. You see that in DOD schools, even in the States. Like they talked about the one down near Fort Benning, Georgia, and how basically if you look at, but hey, teachers are paid like way more. Like one teacher talked about she doubled her salary. Number of years of teaching experience, just number of where you can actually, how much you can actually grow in your career as a teacher, the resources that they spend on the kids. Like, I mean, there is still a slight gap in achievement, but it's much smaller than anything you see anywhere else in the States amongst like blacks, Latino, Hispanics, whites. So
I personally think that you should put the actual teaching of teachers, I think you should put that shit in the national defense budget. Because you're going to need an educated workforce and everything else in order to defend an actual country.
Yeah.
And I don't think the way it's currently being done isn't even an equitable way of doing anything.
You have a STEM crisis if you don't.
You know they got this new movie called Civil War coming out, right? And in the trailer, there was a spot in the trailer where the white man's with his family, and he's like, "Yeah, we're Americans," and the white boy with the gun is like, "What kind of American are you?" You know what I mean? You know what I mean? This is this is the problem. You got a group of people who see America a way we don't see America. You understand me? They see America as their promise, as manifest destiny. That's why they came here.
For just them.
For just them. And we sometimes, I think, as black people, specifically black men and black women, we get caught up in our history in the country And we come from that point of view, which is perfectly understandable. But I don't think we understand what happened to these people and why they came here and what they have done to secure their social status, to secure their caste, position, right? And when there was a guy who was just on the TV recently, I'm trying to remember his name. He was on MSNBC, and he pointed out a huge fact. And the turn of the 1970s, 95% of the power positions in America, I'm talking about elected positions, up until the late 60s, the elected positions, heads of departments of government were all head by white males. Okay. Now that's still that situation is now 80%. So they've lost 15% in ground and power, and you see how they're reacting to that.
Jay Sean,
here's the
what
funny
was
thing
this?
about it,
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
These are the
85%.
settler colonialists.
Here's the funny thing about that 80%. That 80%, I'm only talking about white males. We're not counting the white females that are in power right now, right? So if you count the white females, it still pushes them back to 90%. You know what I mean? And they're acting like they're losing the country. That's irrational. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not even talking about the private sector. You know what I mean? What they own there in land, right? We're just talking about, the department heads. When you look at the Congress, when you look at the Senate, when you look at, every department in our government, from energy to state to DOD, you know what I mean? And they're freaking out. And when they see something like Austin, and then Joint Chief of Staff, and you know what I mean, and then Kamala Harris, they feel like it's all going away. They're losing. It's all over now. It's time to bring out the guns.
The other thing is cultural too. That's the other part. Is like when you start. I'm sure you know about soft power. That's another thing that people feel like they're losing, is that sort of the cultural references. Like when you see like what pop culture is, what it's evolved into, and how much that is aligned with what sort of Black American culture is, and who the faces in those spaces are. Think about sports, celebrity, those things. I mean, people don't talk about it. They like to downplay their influence, but if you go around the world, you know about soft power, and you know how America exports its culture to the world.
Right.
No, that's a fact, man. Hey, can I? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say this, man. Hey, I wanted to let y'all know. So I'm reading this book, man. It's a science fiction book, right? It's called Red Rising, right? This is totally irrelevant. Trust me, stick with me, y'all. It is 700 years into the future. And basically, they have gotten away with democracy, and they've created a space age caste system. Right? I'm not going to spoil it or give too many details, but at the very top, they call them golds. These people run the entire society, and it's literally how they run it is literally a fascist. It's like a mega dream. You know what I'm saying? It's and they even have people within the society. They call them the grays and the silvers, who think they're golds, but they just give them little pats on the head, give them some coin here and there and stuff like that to keep them, satisfied, but they'll never be a gold. You get what I'm saying? It's I don't know, man. It's just, I'm just putting that out there, guys. Sometimes, you really have to go into some fiction to see what these people are about. I really see a future if fascism runs wild, a horrific space futuristic caste system like that. And they brutally subjugate the other colors. Brutally. You talking about with technology and spaceships and blowing up planets type stuff. If they don't
but that's what the Second Amendment bullshit is about. The Second Amendment was clearly put there to defend the state from other people. And people are like, nah, I get a gun myself. How do you read one paragraph and you think you get extra rights because there's guns that exist? Come on, dude.
But the thing is too, it's gonna be I hope it never gets to it, but it'll just the shock on some of these people's faces who didn't get it. We've talked about sort of the Black Trump supporters of these people who run out here and think, that, we're all American, and these people are talking about, taking their country back and this, and I'm just y'all are gonna be, I think someone alluded to it earlier, but y'all are just gonna have just this look of death on your face when you realize all of that was coded language, and all that was really directed towards you. I mean, I think we played on here many times. The whole Lee Atwater speech, where he talks about cutting taxes and all of that, and how that basically is coded language for blacks get hurt worse than whites. That's what a lot of people who miss in all this. Who try to sit up here and act like there's two sides, or like we had on a panel this weekend, people trying to say that both parties are the exact same.
LBJ said that in the 60s. It's how easy it is for quote unquote poor to trick a poor status white person to thinking it's them people that's taking from you, and that's why you in the position you in. You go fight our battle for the same thing with Civil War. I mean, how many slave plantations? I mean, slave owners was there? A handful, but you had a whole millions of you tricked me. Well, they coming down, them Yankees coming down here to take away your by God. Come on, Hatfield, and of course we're gonna get along today because we're going to stop them Yankees. It was about a handful of people controlling.
You have to understand that you're dealing with conservatism is not a party. Conservatism is a culture. You're trying to treat a culture like it's a political party. That's not a political party. That is an entire culture of brainwashing. Like, dude, it's almost like trying to get through to evangelical Christians, who are the most evil people in the country by far. They don't even know that they're far more evil than they actually are. And when you bring it up to them, it's world breaking for them because it's an entire culture of brainwashing that happens. That's what happens when these people go somewhere else, and it just changes. It's crazy.
You know what? Hey, MLT, I saw a panel. I saw a panel, and they was getting like it was like MAGA people in there, right? And I mean, they were just tearing the MAGAs up. Like the MAGA dude said, they asked him about, do you think that homeless people should be rounded up and in prison? He was like, no. So that's Trump's on Agenda 47, and he just was stuck. He was just frozen. And they just kept throwing more stuff at him, like, what about they broke down immigration policy and how people who come across and seek asylum is not illegal, and they were just like, oh, because they're not, like you said, it's a culture. It's not a
it's a culture. It's not a party.
Yeah, they don't care. They make them feel good. All Newsmax and Fox News do is give them hate and rage and manipulate them. And then when they get to the real world, outside of that bizarro world and Earth 2, they get to the real world, Earth 1, like everybody else, they get met with facts. They just short circuit.
Yeah,
not realizing
because they can't live in that area. All right, go ahead.
Not realizing it's
mainly, we're gonna get BJ triple action here. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's mainly the Republicans that promote the immigration issue for cheap labor, but you can't get them to stop. I mean, it's simple. Them same people that argue about immigration, this simple. Call your congressman or march and protest for them to pass a bill to criminalize these corporations for hiring them. Problem fixed. But no, we ain't gonna do that. We just gonna pick up our gun and go to the border down there to help secure it.
And
what's going on, Big J?
What's going on? We're going to MLT. And the problem I have is the lack of awareness of the immigration issue, because you got to be able to understand who's sending these people up here. I mean, if you look at when the so-called civil war they have in Venezuela, well, who's crossing the border now? Venezuelans. And who's been inside Venezuelan politics? The American CIA, American or Western intelligence agencies. See, nobody don't want to connect the dots and why these migrants is coming up here across the border. Because I'm in South Texas, right? I see them. They're not Mexicans. These are Venezuelans and these are Colombians, and these are two countries where the CIA has sent agents in, MI6 sent agents in, and they disrupting those economies down there. That's why these people coming up here, and you got these idiots who's looking at these mayors of Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles talking about, well, they're sanctuary cities when it's actually the governor of Texas and the governor of Florida who, and by the way, it's called kidnapping by deception, and which is a felony case, but nobody wants to talk about that. You ship these migrants over to these cities. Nobody want to talk about that. Everyone want to say, "Oh, we got to vote for Trump," when DeSantis is running for president and Abbott is trying to be the next attorney general of the United States. So,
hey, X, can I ask you a question real quick? Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
If you didn't want these people in the country, right? Why would you send them to a place where they'd be welcome?
That was a political move. I want you to think. Yeah, okay, but think about this for a minute. Those people, those mayors are what? Black. They didn't try that under Bloomberg. They didn't try that under when de Blasio was mayor of New York. This is another case of a black versus brown issue. And while the white man sent him over there just kiki and caca, they people keep falling for the okie doke. I don't understand why people don't sit there and see it.
And even and to piggyback onto that, and I want to say, you have a right, and people in Chicago or New York to complain about it. The same people that never voted, now you see the consequences. Never got involved in the political process, see the consequences of your inaction, sitting around. Now they taking away your benefits you should be getting. Oh, now you want to say something now. What happened all these years? You didn't want to participate in the process. They want to do that. Man, they're going to do what they want to anyway. Now they doing it. So what's the problem?
If you kept these intelligence agencies out of these actual countries that started in like heavy hardcore in the actual, 60s, 70s, and 80s, you're now seeing like the actual outcomes of that stuff. And it's kind of like, that we're a low-wage country. That these corporations are going to use the hell out of these quote-unquote migrants that just came here. And guess what? They have to go through a political, a judicial process in order to do that. Most people don't even know that these people have already had due process and that they can stay. It's the insistence and deliberate misunderstanding of a very simple process and the outcomes of it and the inputs of it that they want to dodge. They want all the progress, but none of the actual engagement in order to get there. And I can't feel sorry for these people no more.
Well, here's the thing too. When Big J said they were sending them to places like New York too, the other thing is they know they can make that a political issue, like I said, black mayor, make them look incompetent, all of that. But then they also probably know that, hey, if you send these people to the Midwest, like they may actually stay, because if you go through any of or if you even send them places in the South, like outside of major metros, like where they're like, wow, we don't have people, like we need people to run the trash route or whatever, work in these factories. Like they already know those.
They're taking over in the Delta, man. They take over Nashville and Memphis and look, these people get to these actual jobs, get to the actual money, and they can save all this actual money. Dude, these people are coming here, getting CDLs, getting right on the road, going right up to these actual companies and getting to work. Like these factories are full of these dudes making $30-something an hour. That all these jobs been here for everybody else. They don't want to take them, and then now they're dealing with a whole new. And guess what? These people got fresh credit and everything else. Buying property. Guess what? 20 years later, it's kind of like when Chinese, Arabs, Jews, Indians. They primarily come over here with nothing. Next generation, nearly all their kids are popping in this actual system here, and over time. They're going to replace all the non-productive people and people who don't want to play by a simplistic and simple set of rules.
Yeah, America's about business first.
And you know what? I wanted to say this too, to Big James' point too, real quick. The majority of quote unquote illegal immigration are people who overstay their visas from Europe, Canada.
Yeah, especially in Ireland. I mean, it's mostly
Ireland. Northern Europeans. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's the book, but they're white. I mean, let's just be honest. To them, I saw there was Republicans trying. There was a German. Yeah, there was a German family that never did the proper paperwork and process. And they about to get deported, and Republicans were trying to get them. Not to be deported, trying to block the deportation, but they were here illegally, as they always say, right? But they're white. There was a whole family of white Germans. They didn't care.
Yeah, Trump's wife, before they got married, she was here for years illegally.
whole
and
family.
she brought her family over through the anchor clause where you can
Listen,
bring your
man,
family.
I've done plenty of steel for Trump building projects. Dude, there ain't nothing but white immigrants on there sleeping like 20 to a goddamn room in the nearest hotel that work at these
Thank
places.
you. Thank you.
And this has been going on since his presidency. Didn't nobody bring the shit up? It happened outside of his presidency and didn't nobody bring it up. It happened all during his presidency and didn't nobody bring it up. The shit going on now and nobody brings it up. And it's like, dude, is this shit really an issue? Like, come on, bro. Like, it's almost like people don't even want to look at very simple things. Like, what is so hard about the fucking process that you don't want to follow simple fucking directions to get a result? I don't get it.
I mean, I get it. I mean, you just have people that just don't. They just want to float on through life like they don't gotta. It just everything just supposed to snap their fingers and
King
and, and it
King
magically
King
appear.
Trump would take care of them. That's their mindset.
But the wild
Hey,
thing is like, you'll hear these very same people talk about, well, black people have voted Democrat all these years. I'm like, see, that's the political ploy right there. Is that they'll try to say like, basically it's black boomers who they're really getting at. Because I'm like, all these people talking about, oh, people have been voting all these years. I'm like, y'all haven't been voting. Like a certain segment of Black America has been voting.
They
They've been
wanted
largely
the
getting
last generation
results.
to give them a better start, and they're still pissed the fuck off that they don't have that better start. So, well, if the boomers would have fucking just did everything for us, then we'll have a better country. Yeah, but they had to fight against somebody that they're still here
yeah,
that you claim that
yeah.
you're now a part of. The fuck out of here
Well,
with that shit, man.
both my grandfathers made it to where my grandmas didn't have to work when they. But I reckon they supposed to have made it to where we all didn't have to work.
Nah, it,
Come
it,
on, no, it don't
Yeah,
work
yeah,
like
that's what
that.
I'm
Nah,
saying, man.
it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, it's
it's
crazy.
just people like you said, people who want to like take claim, and I'm like, y'all weren't participating, and then y'all are gonna continue not participating, thinking that that's gonna somehow add value or make you get your outcome. It's madness, and no
Well,
other group of people even talks like this.
Or think like
why
that. Once they get here,
I
they don't think like that. I'm telling you, these
I
people are not
beg.
smarter than you. They're just following simple ass directions that you refuse to actually be a part of. And I say that with a certain level of individual complaint, I'm above listening to that shit. I can't be around that shit. Like even here in Memphis, I just hear people come, oh, they're taking all the jobs. I'm like, did you want to walk or Taco Bell? Oh, I would not. Then shut the fuck up. Easy. And guess what? That
Don't
person ain't
want
gonna
to.
be at Taco Bell forever. Once they get into the money, they're gonna go to the workforce center. That they have all this shit they're there for, like the same shit in Denver. Oh, it's here in Nashville. It's there in Memphis. Do the people actually go do it? No. I mean, they don't have free transportation to get there like we do in Denver, but all the fucking programs are there.
Well, I
Federally
mean,
Right
funded
what's
there,
programs are there.
right
They just
there,
don't take advantage of it.
well, I mean,
right there. Out of
they'll
the
take.
small town in North Carolina, they bought a vacuum truck so they can vacuum up the little trash and stuff. And a sweep, a little street sweeper or whatever. It's a CDL position, but I mean, when I leave home to go to work on Sundays, you got 20 Negroes up at the little bootleg. All they gotta do is get. Hell, I even do them a favor. I help them study for it. I know a girl who can pass them at the driver license place. Who can pass them, give you the answer to the test. You think they'll go over there and take that $50,000 a year job? They're gonna sit right up there at the bootleg. I'm sorry. What I mean? So if Joe blow out the fence tomorrow, I hate it. He get that job. What you want me to do? Y'all didn't want to do it.
I'm
Nah,
just
and I was
saying,
gonna,
man, that
I
there
was
has
gonna
to be a
say
clear
MOT.
separation between these complaints with individuals and this lack of action from the same individuals who are complaining. They're not part of our goddamn group. They're not. They're just not. I don't care how large their numbers are.
No, I was gonna say the other thing too MOT. Like even if they do have those low wage jobs, those people don't mind doing like the immigrant thing, like you said. Living a couple families to a house for like a year,
Yes.
and then
Hmm.
people have enough for a down payment, or some may, depending on where they live, may have the money to outright go and buy a house, and that's how you buy up a
Yes.
whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
Man,
when you
that's
have
so
a plan as a family. Plan as a family that everybody get to buying on. Like we used to have that. Like during Jim Crow, we had that. Slightly after Jim Crow was over, we had that. But like I don't know. Sometimes after segregation, everybody just wanted to do their thing once they got quote unquote free, and they didn't have to work as a group. So gotta leave these people with those outcomes again. So.
Nah, you just got to leave the people, because I mean, I know people like to romanticize it, but I'm like, you got plenty of people who are not work, who are more of a, like I said, same people sabotaging, and it's just more like those people want to go back to, oh well, let's go back and everybody work together. It's like, nah, like not everybody made it to the promised land. Like you gotta be discerning.
Yeah, because you know what's funny, MOT? When I've heard older black dudes say the ones like you said is left behind and not doing shit, and didn't have nothing, didn't do shit during that time. They say, "Oh, it was better under segregation." I've heard that. Just like I've talked to a dude, he said we was like same argument. It was better under Trump. Like, I mean,
I
it's like
understand the argument. I understand the argument, and here's the argument behind it. They didn't have to produce, and they were not forced to actually participate. Under Trump, they had excuses. But with those excuses are gone, now they have a lack of engagement that they have to address. They don't have to address that shit when conservatives are in charge. Why? They ain't gonna do shit for black people any fucking way. But when the Democrats get in there, the arguments fucking change. All of a sudden, they're concerned about the fucking economy only when Democrats get in charge. They're not concerned about the fucking economy when the whole world had to shut down over a fucking pandemic. Nobody was that concerned about the economy at that point in time. But now they're so concerned at this point in time. Like, man, get the fuck out of my face with this shit.
And they took every check too.
Yes, they did. They took every single.
Now you see why they were doing good up under Trump.
They loyalty was bought with $1,000.
Yeah, so they come to me like, oh, well, why is Yellow Freight out of business? I'm like, let me tell you why Yellow Freight is out of business. Here's what they did. They took 2 PPP loans, 30-some thousand employees. One EIDL loan for their entire company. Same shit. 2 years of employee retention credit. And guess what happened? The moment they had to pay that fucking money back, they tried to hold a big hostage stake with the actual country. Be like, look, you got to pay us even more money to stay in business, or else we're just going to fire all these people. You know what happened? Fuck your company.
Like,
oh, look at all them jobs. And it's like, oh, I'm like, listen, man. Don't nobody want to hire nobody from Yellow or any of that shit. They got too used to those fucking jobs, and they know that those people took billions of dollars from the government, and then they went belly up because they tried to create an actual same position that actual GM and Ford is in. Yeah, but GM and Ford didn't fucking take all that shit and decide to go out of business. They decided to just keep in business, and it was an investment for the government. They made money off of what they fucking loaned them. Yellow Freight, they didn't do that fucking shit. They did that shit, and they went out of fucking business. And all their equipment is still fucking sitting there. Now they are a third-party logistics company that hand off all their freight to other companies, and they're still getting paid for it. Still getting paid for it. Dude, a freight company is the actual fucking... Go ahead.
I mean, that's missing out the equation. Me and a couple other older drivers still talking about that. Hold up. They still, Yellow, I mean, they still broken out the freight, getting paid off of it.
That's what I'm saying. And I had a white dude trying to argue with me who's a freight broker with me, a third-party logistics company, by telling me that I don't know that that's true. I'm like, you're a freight brokerage. That's exactly how you run your fucking operation. What are you talking about? I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's like, but at the end of the day, once you get that close to how they make their money, they want to blow up the fucking conversation. They always do. And this is another one of these anarcho-capitalist style dudes who only wanted to cut taxes for payroll taxes, but he didn't want to get rid of all his tax benefits. And you have a whole bunch of these idiotic morons who call into the show who think that they're right wing. Like, no, dude, you like to romanticize the right wing. You motherfuckers ain't got no money like that. You motherfuckers not even benefiting off the system like that. You just want to
see small government. I don't want to pay no taxes. Okay. You let them start tolling some roads and see how quick you want to pay taxes.
They all take the handout. Look at all the right-wing Congress people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who had companies and businesses that took the
farms
money.
And shit. Yeah,
took the money. And here's another thing that no one talks about. No one talks about the billions of dollars, PPP loans that went to companies that didn't need it, rich companies,
large corporations.
Remember all these corporations that got just flooded with cash they didn't need.
The Staples Center needed a fucking PPP loan.
So the Lakers got caught.
They
were all doing it.
Yeah, it was a restaurant chain that did. I can't remember who, like a well-known restaurant chain or something like that got caught. Yeah. They had to give the money back.
Yeah, but you got a DOD under Trump And under Biden, that's going after, Lil Jamal for getting 2 cars.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And then and then the conservative would be like, yeah, he deserves to go to jail, But they have no smoke for the people who got really all the money.
Man.
And that's why Negroes are talking about they did so well under Trump. I'm like, oh, okay, that PPP fraud is coming to get y'all now.
And that's
you know
double
what?
talk too. They love to claim how good Pookie and Ray Ray's doing when it suits them, when it suits their argument.
Exactly, and that's the thing too, Jay Shine, and what MOT be talking about. I see it full force now with me and Renaissance over that panel talking about that. They were trying to say 2 sides of the same bird and all that bullshit. No, the problem is they pussy. No, that's what it is. Like they got all this smoke for Democrats, and they stick their chests out, that like they just going in on Democrats. When it comes to Republicans, they bow down with their head down. Ooh, yes, so I ain't gonna say nothing about you on my channel. They ain't gonna say a word about Republicans. Republicans running. It's 15 states in America right now, Mississippi included, that's denying children to eat over the summer. Low income
Yes.
families. Yeah, I mean, how can you
They get rid of those school lunch programs? Like Nebraska was the one that started it off, and then like all these other conservative states started doing the exact same shit. And you know what those people in those areas tried to do? They tried to blame the Democrats for not fighting hard enough, not the Republicans for taking the shit. They didn't want to fight the Democrats for not fighting hard enough to keep it. I'm like, you know what, man? It's time for y'all to fucking starve, because at the end of the day, these people are pretty. I mean, they're not gonna move out the area, but they're not gonna hold people who are actually responsible, because you're not dealing with a party. You are dealing with a fucking brainwashed culture of people.
Right.
Who I'm telling you, man, this shit is in their DNA. To work for free for corporate fucking America. They fought a whole war where they did that shit for free. You're not about to get these people to just see reason. Dude, they got to turn their back on their whole families and everything else. They're not going to do that shit.
They come from surf culture.
Yeah.
We forget the history of these people. They come from a surf culture. I was just watching Napoleon, the movie, the other day.
Oh, it's like such a good movie.
And it could have been longer. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, way longer.
He was a motherfucker. But anyway, I just thought about it. I was sitting there watching the movie MOT, and I was thinking about, like, damn, why are all these white boys just dying for these people with titles? You know what I mean? Because they come from a surf culture. It's the same way you can waste white boy life right now in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying? And they do the same thing. They come from a caste system. They let their nobles, their corporate leaders, gouge them and take as much as they want, and then they sit back and make sure that they have enough over who? Us.
Yeah, they was more outraged at the military leaving Afghanistan and Iraq than the motherfuckers who put them in Iraq and Afghanistan in the first place.
Right.
Same right wingers who said jack shit while these people were committing suicide at high levels, while people were dying at high levels, while they was putting these people on night flights because they didn't want to see soldiers all fucked up and shit during the fucking day and all this shit. All this shit was going on. Nobody had nothing to say. The moment we want to pull the fuck out, now there's a problem. It's like, man, you can't help them.
You had 3 million major cases against opioid companies that created an opioid epidemic, but they want to lock Jamal up for 6 bags of crack. You see what I'm saying? They would spend billions of dollars to lock every Jamal up that's selling crack to their own people, that ain't even affecting them like that. You see what I'm saying? This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an illogical, irrational people. There's no talking to this. It's never been able to talk to them. I've been watching nothing but all weekend. I've been watching nothing but Martin Luther King videos, and I really started to realize what Martin was going through. You could see his evolution as he was going through the civil rights process and dealing with people within his own ilk, but also dealing with these politicians and the powers that be. You know what I mean? And
there was a lot of people, Jay Shine, who did not want him to succeed. They were black. Like my grandfather told me about this shit. He was like,
tons of them.
It was like when it came to the actual marches and shit, it was like there wasn't that many people that you see now who was for that shit. Most of those people wanted to hide. They wanted to keep the power that they had. They didn't want to risk anything. They didn't want to do none of that shit.
No, hey, listen. The real deal was their deal was, hey, look, keep it cool here. You know, it's all right. You know, we got our little bit. You know, whites are being cool. Keep it calm. Don't rattle things up. Lay back. Be chill. That's what a lot of those black people were about. And you know, folks were just he ran into as much problems inside of the movement with his with black people as he was running in with white people. Now,
Right.
white people, some white folks were out there, talking about, shooting them and killing them. But you had black people on the inside you had, of course, one black woman who tried to put a knife through his heart. But you also had others there who were of the mindset, sit back. We can't really support you like that. We got things going on here. They were paid off. Things. We got to keep things cool.
Like
They
I'm
got paid off to
on the
keep things cool.
like
I mean,
I'm gonna get you, sucker. The brothers went down there marching. They came out with jobs. They ain't want to march no more.
yeah.
That's all it boiled down to.
And
We comfortable.
that's,
We just want to be comfortable.
and that's how they kept it cool. We kept it cool up in here. We don't need you on up here now. You handle them crazy crackers down in the South, but y'all coming up here now in places like Chicago, moving up into other areas in the Midwest and moving more north. Nope, don't go. Everything's cool, baby. Don't worry. Okay, MLK, it's cool. And he was very, he was kind of surprised. Now remember, MLK was a young man. He was in his 30s. He would be considered today a millennial. There's a millennial out there, kind of rolling like that, or what we see at millennial age today. This is a young guy, dealing with some of these things where people were really looking to be dynamic and really make some big changes. And you had the older crowd and some of these others who were, let's keep this cool. Don't rile everybody up. Don't rile
the
people
management
up.
would shout somebody down like that who actually had accomplishments.
Oh, yeah. You have those types in here right now. Be quiet. Don't rile them up. Do it sitting back, And then you'd have the more radical side of guys coming through here saying, I'm gonna split your wig if you get in the way, if you're getting away with what we're trying to do. So this was kind of this is what we had going on. And a lot of infighting went on, of course, amongst blacks, and it was a very dynamic time. But what you brothers are talking about here right now, and how you just mentioned it, you guys are dead on it. Dead on it. That was a big part of it. That was a big part of what was going on with MLK. Great.
I'm glad you said that word. He finally he evolved. That's all I gotta say. You seen how he evolved from beginning of it to the end. How his whole mindset had changed, and a lot of people
just like Malcolm's mindset had changed.
Thank you.
Before he got up out of here. Once they stopped making speeches and started making tangible actions, they had to get them the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Using that power the way that it was supposed to be used, without traveling the country and doing all that shit, but just trying to raise unionization and raising awareness and getting people signed up and picking an actual side. Like, oh no, this is a system that's a problem. It is a culture that's an actual problem. Yeah, it's a process, and it's like most people who don't care about the process are the people who have stolen the valor of pro-blacks and all that kind of shit. These people are spoken word artists who are just definitely stealing the valor of people who actually put in work, took sides, and participated in the process and was killed over it. These people just take the names of those people and actually just put like an entertainment spin on the actual thing and just go after certain groups and crowds of people along the chitlin circuit. And I'm like, man, I can't rock with none of this.
No, you're not supposed to.
So, Big J, still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, man. So we gotta talk, man.
Big J,
so what's up with you? Yeah, man. So what's up with you getting ran off the Master Teacher Response channel, man? When you jumped up there to have a conversation, what's going on with that? I thought he wanted to smoke on the channel, man. What happened?
No, like he kicked me out. That's what happened.
So he invites you up. You start toasting him like it's very easy to do, and then he kicks you off. Like, what's going on, man?
Yeah, he kicked me off because I was talking about him supporting Pearl. That's all. I brought that.
And I can't believe that he would double down on the Pearly things at this point. It makes no sense to do that at this point.
It's just it's more arrogance because hey, me and Renaissance and Mike V, we was over there taking scalps the other day. We was over there.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, man. Like y'all were trying, but it's like a schism in the actual space. And think about the progress we would have actually made if we wouldn't invested into the trolling women piece. If we just would have split off into just continuing along the political lines and actually getting some shit done, rather than inviting all these people in here, building a whole algorithm full of lost and broken men in the relationship, woman-based conversation. Man, just think about what the fuck we could have did for ourselves rather than help maybe 5 or 6 different people or create another genre of fucking grifters. Man, we could have been way bigger and better and more effective than where we are at now.
No, I agree, man. Like, hey, man, you speaking truth to power, MOT, man. I don't, I know people disagree with you on like, some of the stuff, but like, you on point with the productivity piece and just talking about Keisha and then being a culture conservative, just to act like there's some type of policy to get Keisha back in line and being on YouTube all day long on panels, trying to like garner an audience of, dissatisfied men. Nah, you on point with that, man.
Yeah,
And
man.
regardless,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna piggyback onto that. Respectfully, there's some things I disagree, but if we can all just get on the productive piece, that's we can solve a lot of problems. All the other stuff can wait. Let's just get. I try to encourage every young man I know to be productive. Look, go ahead over there and get your welding certificate certified, and you can get on one of these corporations. You might have to go over to Dubai somewhere and work, or overseas and work, or you might be on the road a couple weeks out the month. You can make well over 6 figures. You learn how to invest your money, flipping and bouncing. By the time you're 30, you sit back lounging, looking at all the rest of them, not doing nothing. Productive. But hey.
Man, that's where we at, man. And it's kind of crazy that the people with the most complaints are the people who take no action whatsoever. That shit is crazy to me about people deliberately misunderstanding basic things on how basic things can actually work just to maintain their complaints and make no progress and thinking they're holding somebody hostage for doing so. I don't get that shit. I don't get it at all, man. It's weird and it's wild. So let's finish up the last 20 minutes of this in the super clip, and then we'll respond to it and give our final thoughts and get up out of here, all right? Because they're about to say some wild and crazy stuff that's not conservative at all. A lot of stolen valor is actually in this actual super clip of 20 minutes that I'm about to play. I'm going to play it out, and I'm not going to stop it, so let's just keep going.
So as you look at these debates that take place, like over the Voting Rights Act, right? And there was this position, and I actually was naive enough to accept it with sincerity at face value, which was that this is a new South, that this is a new society. It's been remade, right? That the civil rights laws and the consent decrees and all of the things, right, that are imposed from an elections perspective, right, because of the past, because of segregation, because of the abuses. We live in a new era.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you enforcing, right, rules and laws as if it's still 1966 or 68 or 75 or 76? And I accepted that argument, right? Like I accepted that argument, right? And all of the evidence, right, is the person who placed the concession phone call for John McCain to Barack Obama. You have a sense of history, right? The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice, right? You're moving towards that place. Right, you're moving towards that place, right? It's inexorable, right? That the poison of race, right? That it's bleaching out. So, full stop. I'm watching this documentary on Netflix, and it's about all these like 80-year-old Germans, right? Veterans of the SS, right? Hitler Youth, ended their lives, looking back on the heyday of the Third Reich. We've been conditioned, Schindler's List, the era of the mournful German, right? That the regretful. None of these people were regretful. Every one of them was nostalgic, right? They don't regret what they did, the service, their time. They lost, they accept it, but they don't have bad memories. They don't necessarily, except for a few, accept the evil that was around them. So the snarling, spitting, white, deranged face shouting the N-word on the line of the black kid going to school, that spirit, that ember, it never extinguished. Right. And it has been brought back to life, manifestly so. And so now you stand at an era, right, where this is really a revanchist movement, right? When you look at freedom, when you look at liberty, you're a black woman in the state of Ohio in a situation like that.
Right. Yeah.
Knock on your door any moment, any day. You're a 17-year-old black boy in the culture that tells you, hey, it's okay, right?
Yeah.
In the culture, right, to do interracial dating. Well,
right.
Depends on who grandpa is, right?
Hey, you better not
right?
step
And
your
what
ass
his
up in my
relationship
house.
with
Right.
the
Exactly.
prosecutor is, right?
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
like we're at the gateway to a terrible, terrible, terrible revanchism towards these darkest impulses in the country. But the thing to understand is the fight is perpetual, right? It's like John Lewis crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but like each generation is going to have to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
See,
our great grandchildren's generation is going to have
Yeah.
to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Like what this just shows is that human nature produces people who want to subjugate other people, who want to take power, who want to take control. And if there's somebody who looks like they have a pathway to do it, they will have acolytes, they will have supporters,
They will.
They will have people who get on board, right? And that's the thing the media doesn't understand about Trump, right? Some people around Trump just want to take money in, like Jared Kushner, right? Like every time you read about the guy, he's surrounded by another 6 Qataris, right?
I know, right?
This was about business. Jared Kushner didn't give a shit about anything other than money. Stephen Miller doesn't care about money.
Right.
Miller cares about building concentration camps, filling them with Mexicans and Guatemalans and Hondurans. That's what he cares about, right? So each component, right, of that coalition, because it's nihilistic, gets to sit at the table and have some agency and regency for the things they care about. So that's why there's room for Nick Fuentes, the Nazi.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't interfere with Jared Kushner's grift. So why does Jared Kushner care about the Nazi in the coalition who enables the grift? And why does the Nazi in the coalition care about the Jew who's getting grift, who's in on the Saudi grift, right? Everybody got a piece.
Everybody's got a piece.
And so that's what this is, and that's what has to be extinguished.
The point you make about that arc and how it bends, and the fact that, and I think it was a very important point, that we all will have to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, reminds me of a lesson that I learned from the I Have a Dream speech, Washington, 1963, August 28th, the mall. You know, I have vague remembrances of that. I remember my dad taking me out on that day vaguely as a young kid, and subsequently understanding and appreciating the history of that moment. What I learned and took away from it, Steve, was Dr. King was not talking to the hundreds of thousands who were amassed in front of him on the mall that day. He was talking to Steve Schmidt and Michael Steele. 60 years later, 50 years later, 40 years later, he was talking to future generations about that dream, about the little black boy and the little black girl holding hands with little white girls and little white boys. That would be the continued test that was not going to be met on that mall in that moment. It would not be realized in the Civil Rights or Voting Rights Act. It would not even be realized upon the election of the first Black president. but it is something that we would continue to have to strive towards and test ourselves against, whether or not we still deem these truths as self-evident, that all of us are created equal, that we still believe in this idea of we the people as the governing authority of these United States that form this place called America. And at this hour, many of us fail that test, willingly fail that test. We just named a few of them. So the pressure rests on the shoulders of Steve Schmidt and Michael Steele as we begin this 2024 to reimagine that conversation for this nation, to represent it, those words from 1963, to represent that march across that Edmund Pettus Bridge as a part of the American narrative that we have to rise to meet every day if we want this thing to work, which is, why for me, having you start this conversation on my podcast this year was important, because the one thing, you do politics like nobody else does politics, and we know that, but I think a lot of people miss about you that I appreciate, and maybe it's the old seminarian in me, is that your politics is anchored to a belief, a philosophy, an ideal that is not Steve Schmidt, but is US, that is us, that is America. And I think a lot more people need to see themselves and what they can give the country in that light, in that way. That for that mom sitting around trying to balance the books at the kitchen table, your voice is as important as Steve or mine. Your voice is more important than the president. That's how we work our way through this. You are the leader, as to paraphrase Barack Obama, you are the leader we've been waiting for, that we need. And before I let you get out of here, if we wanted to set up the conversation for 2024, that would be the way I would do it. What do you think of that? What do you say to that mom balancing that checkbook as she's trying to feed her kids? What do you say to that dad who's filled with the pride that comes from an honest day work to provide for his family and his kids, to create that dream that Dr. King talked about? The young teenager who's trying to discover their sexuality, but doesn't want to wind up in a concentration camp because of it. Or the young immigrant or migrant who's seeking a better life, but looks across the wall, that border, and is being told, hell no, we don't want you. How do we have this conversation?
Is Mark Zuckerberg on your side? He's building a $265 million mansion with a giant bunker underneath of it on an island in Hawaii. Mark Zuckerberg isn't on your side.
Yes, sir.
Right? Are the algorithms on your kid's side? Are the tech companies on your side? Are the big banks on your side? Are the healthcare companies? Are the insurance companies? Is Wall Street on your side? Is the usury rates of the credit card industries, are they on your side? Right? You know who's an equalizer? You know who can be on your side? The President of the United States. He can do a lot, right? And Joe Biden is on all of our sides. Now, I wish he had been a one-term president and had traveled the country spreading good vibes, but he made a different choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I don't doubt the sincerity of the man. I don't doubt his conviction. And so here's the deal. He's not a dishonest man. He's not on the take like Trump. He had an addicted son, right? And the abuse of that son is a national scandal too. And you ought to talk about that, right? He ought to run a fearless campaign, right? Every person in the White House who tells him to read a script, hands him a cue card, right? Stop it.
Right.
Right. Let the president go out to the country and make an argument. And I want to say one last thing, if I could, about the Lincoln Memorial, because I think when you talk about that day, and going out, that on the day of dedication of the Lincoln Memorial in 1923, which is about 40 years before Dr. King leads the march there, which was called the Freedom Parade, right? The pennants carried that day, right? They're marked the Freedom Parade. And so in 1923, you have two speakers really that are the dominant speakers. You have Dr. Morton from the Tuskegee Institute, and he is speaking from the dais ahead of the President of the United States. The crowd is sitting in segregated sections,
Right.
But it is also filled with veterans of the war, the surviving veterans, 60 years after the war, South and North, in a spirit of reconciliation, and they are talking about Lincoln. And then Harding gives a speech, and he is explicit about this. That before he hands over the monument to Chief Justice Taft, right, he makes clear that the purpose of the monument is not for the people sitting there. It's for us. It's for future generations. And what it says above Abraham Lincoln's head in there, in this temple, enshrined is in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, rests forever the memory of Abraham Lincoln, flanked on both sides by the Gettysburg Address and the second inaugural, the first inaugural address, where the cataclysm that comes, where the redemption of the American ideal through the words of the Gettysburg Address, the long struggle, right? So in 40 years' time, from the end, 60 years' time, from the end of the Civil War, the emancipation of slavery, to Dr. Morton standing there, speaking to a segregated crowd about American ideals and principles. We're 40 years off from that moment, right? Imagine, right, if you could have envisioned in 1923, a young Black man at the head of a freedom parade, hundreds of thousands strong, marching under the American flag with a profound moral and righteous might to the temple where forever rests the memory of Abraham Lincoln is in the hearts of his countrymen, to, in King's words, to redeem a promissory note. Does Martin Luther King, who was certainly a revolutionary in the best sense of the word, a true patriot, does he come to tear down the temple? He comes to the temple to preach the message of the temple to the whole country. The message is freedom.
Yeah.
And then within another lifetime, Barack Obama speaks to the country on the eve of his inauguration. This is the story of America. Right, but the race attacks in Washington in 1919 or in Tulsa, the thousands of lynchings, all of the injustice has always coincided and existed next to all of the glory, the high ideals next to the basest human conditions. And I'll just say this to close out. I have been all around the world and have personally borne witness at the places where man's depravity and inhumanity has been its deepest and darkest. I've been to those places, to Auschwitz, to Reichenstadt, to Dachau, Rwanda, the places in the United States where Black Wall Street was destroyed, in Washington, D.C., to civil rights museums where you can listen to the voices. There is no person who has ever, and I mean ever, promised to lock people up into concentration camps, imprison political opponents, deploy the armed forces against his political enemies, who, when they got power, didn't deliver on that promise.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who say, if Trump wins, our democracy disappears. It's not true. We have 94,000 different types of government in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Centralized society on earth. The fight will just be beginning, right? What it means is the people who are terrified and just then waking up to the threat, right? It will be time for them to take to the streets behind the people who are ready to stand in front of the tanks rolling out of army bases on Trump's orders for the Insurrection Act. And for me, I'll be proud to be one of the first people at the gate standing in front of the tank. Because no true American will ever, and I mean fucking ever, submit to this bullshit.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. And that's why he's Steve Schmidt, folks. That's why I'm glad I could begin my new year with this conversation, because I think we need that orientation and that focus on what's at stake, but most importantly, how those stakes are often set by us and how we have a large role to play in the outcome of those stakes. Steve Schmidt, he is the host of the podcast and Substack newsletter, The Warning with Steve Schmidt. He is my friend and ally in this battle on behalf of us. Man, it's a real pleasure seeing you again and hearing your voice.
Good to see you, Governor.
You got it, my friend. That does it for our time together, friends. Thank you for beginning your new year with me and Steve. We look forward to the conversation over the next 12 months as we get ready for what will be one hell of a ride in this election season. Until then, be safe, be well. Follow me on Twitter at Michael Steele. Follow the podcast at Steele_podcast. Do that download thing because you know it makes me feel all yummy inside. Until next time, God bless.
All those was liberal critiques of the actual party that they built. Dude, I'm telling you, it just got too big and they just kicked him out. Like, dude.
Like they kicked him off, what do you call it, Grifter Mountain?
Yeah, you gripped the mountain, man. They had an express elevator down, man. They didn't come back up. And it's like those are liberal critiques. Like they didn't point to any conservative throughout history. Like we need to go back to this type of conservatism because it involves these many Americans. Like no, your actual ideology never really included anybody. And you guys have made mega money off of this actual thing that is now destroying the entire country, man. And it's like they are allowed to be on TV. Liberals who've been saying this shit for years are not allowed to be on TV. They take all of the liberal talk shows away from people who's been saying this shit the entire time. It's a bunch of stolen valor fucking bullshit that doesn't need to be actually happening. So we got to wrap it up, man. So you got any last words, Citizen Lou? Any comments and last words all together?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, man. Good stream. I just want to say this. BA got a good point. I don't know how you gonna get to the bish and you swinging on Trump's nuts. I don't understand how that works. I don't know what kind of woman can, you know what I mean, can rock with you. You too scared to even challenge power and the status quo. I don't understand why you even talking about the woman. But yeah, man. Hey, good stream. Catch y'all later, man.
All right, cool. Last word, question, Prince.
Yo, last words is turn this off. I'll pass it to somebody else cause this. I mean, this buffoonery that you have to listen to, and these people that cause these chaos. That's all it is. It's a bunch of chaos, and they won't just talking all over the place, just babbling, just to be babbling amongst their little group, and ain't gonna get nothing solved.
Yeah, because they didn't address what conservatives was going to do. They didn't address what conservatives are going to change. They just addressed the fact that they need to be defeated by liberals with liberal talking points that they're using. They didn't point to anything in history that they could point to that actually says that everybody was an American from the first beginning. It was never part of their position. They know what they built. They know who they're addressing. Because those shows, they're not for Republicans at all. Those shows are for liberals. It's people from the Democratic Party like, oh my God, they're saviors. People who feel their way. Like, no, they're stealing your actual content and presenting it as their content. They're still not on your side because they're not trying to address their people. They're only talking to you. They're not talking to their people about none of this shit. They're not talking to them about changing anything. And the last words, Renaissance Man.
Nah, I'm good. Great stream. I'll catch y'all later.
All right, cool. Thanks so much for coming through. Go. Last words for get up out of here.
Great stream. A lot of good stuff was said. No doubt about it. These conservatives that they're not talking about dealing with them. They're talking about what's going on this side, but they're not talking about dealing with them. And in all reality, therein lies your problem. Anyway, great stream, MLT. Thanks for inviting me up.
Jay Shine, any last words, comments about what you just heard, the nonsense that they never believed in? Trying to present it as if that's their point of view. That's all they believed the entire time. That shit's
Yeah,
nuts.
well, I saw I was following a conservative early on IG, and he posted something earlier, and it was Donald Trump in his golf cart, and he was in his golf cart with a little sound system, and he played James Brown, It's a Man's World. And they posted it on IG because this is the machismo that they fell in love with. They fell in love with an archetype. They fell in love with what I call virtual patriarchy. All right. And this is what I call the vicarious age, where you have people living vicariously through personalities. That's why I said earlier it's emotional. And you can't deal with you can't bring logic and 1 + 1 to somebody who's being emotional. We have to get involved in this process. There was a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake for us as Black men. And if you don't think so, then you're lost. So thanks for letting me come up, MOT. Real good stream. I'm glad we had this conversation. Salute to my brother, Nagone. He's my hero. He knows why. And I will catch y'all on the next one.
All right, cool. Big J Triple X.
But thank you for having me on. I don't got nothing else to say. I just think though fascism needs to be defeated. And that's all I gotta say. But thank you for having me up, MLT.
And like Senator Lou said, it only appeals to weak ass men who ain't got no fucking accomplishments, who want to look up to capitalism even though they're not capitalists themselves. This shit's crazy.
Right. So thank you for having me on.
All right, cool, man. All right, thanks for coming on. I want to thank everybody for coming through on this MLK Day special. I want to thank you guys for coming through. Thank you for the Inquisitive Prince for the $5 super chat. You guys have a really nice rest of y'all day. Get invested and involved in the process, please. Thank you so much for listening. You guys have a really nice day. Peace.